This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
Today on CityCast DC, the city is currently a snowy winter wonderland. And on cold days like these, you don't have to just stay in your apartment. But you also might want to do something a little more creative than just visit a museum. So strap on those snow boots because Clockout DC's Jade Womack is here to clue you in on the most underrated indoor activities in DC. Today's Tuesday, January 7th. I'm Bridget Todd, and here's what DC is talking about. Jade, it is kind of like a dreary, rainy day in DC, and I can see that you and your adorable pup Luna are kind of all cozy inside.
It is definitely a dreary day. It's one of those times when you're like, wow, it is true that DC rains more than Seattle, Washington.
Exactly. And I feel like on days like this, it's really got me thinking about activities that you can do during these sort of like dreary winter days. Although I feel like in DC, that usually looks like a museum or a restaurant or a bar. There have got to be some out-of-the-box things that you can do indoors that aren't just go to a museum and go to a bar.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think also when people think of going to a bar, they're thinking maybe verbatim, like getting drinks or something like that. And I think this is where there's other activities one can do, such as, for example, going to like bingo at a bar or playing board games at a bar, which I think then takes off this idea of just like the activity is drinking and perhaps binge drinking, but instead, bingo or something fun. My friend Demi and I, for example, after bar, we went to bingo and we really were not in the mood to like drink. We just wanted to get a bite and like catch up and hang out in a third space.
Is that how you think about curating your events? Like, it's not, you don't have to feel like you're just going to a bar to slam beers. There's another thing happening.
Yes, exactly. And I think that compared to, let's say, like trivia, where people have like a flavor of their kind of trivia host that they're loyal to and the questions that they get asked, I find bingo, it's like, well, everybody should be good at bingo, and the shape's a little bit different. But yeah, there's also like after hour crafts that you can do at Shop Made in DC or Reloom, where you could like go make an ornament or paint a wreath or, learn how to knit or sew. It's also something where you can meet people too in kind of like a classroom setting.
Is it hard to find these kinds of events in DC?
I would say yes and also no. I think once you discover who hosts them, it's easy to find. But truly, it's Shop Made in DC, it's Reloom, it's fun. I mean, the fragrance studio in Georgetown where you can make your own specialty fragrance. And then once you know that, then just keep watching the calendar and they sometimes will mix it up.
So let's get into some of your recommendations. Are there any good activities that you'd recommend for meeting new people or mingling?
Yeah, so for meeting new people or mingling, it's going to be these kinds of craft events that you have to pay for, but also there are book clubs in the city. I don't think you can just like drop in spontaneously to a book club, but besides the book club, there's also lots of swaps that happen in the city as well. Not necessarily clothing swaps, which are much larger. I really don't think you'd get to meet many people besides kind of this very informal, like, oh, like this looks cute, you should try it on kind of thing. But when you're talking about like puzzle swaps or plant swaps or yarn and knit fiber swaps, there's many types of little hyper niche communities. I think there's even a fish swap if you like aquariums, but like that maybe is not for some, but just I think if you're in the aquarium community, you might know about this already. Apparently we're all running now. That's not really an indoor event. However, because of run clubs, I know that people end up hanging out more in the more socializing settings afterwards, where they'll grab like a slice of pizza or go to a local bar as well.
You've mentioned some of the activities that are kind of like crafty. Just out of curiosity, do you consider yourself a crafty lady?
You know how parents, they just drop off stuff in your house from like your childhood. They're like, we don't need this anymore. My mom like just dropped off all these like plastic totes. I'm like, oh, that's where all my acrylic paint is and all of my embroidery floss. At one time I wanted to learn how to sew projects. So yes, I would say so. I'm a crafty person, but just trying to keep it contained. Yes.
I like that because I also think this is the time of year where folks are thinking about new hobbies. Maybe you're thinking, I made a New Year's resolution to stay off my phone. And so crafting, knitting, things like that. I always feel like that's a good go-to. And some of these indoor meetups could be a great landing pad into a brand new hobby.
Yeah, and I think also too, it's very low stakes, right? Like if you take like an embroidery class and you don't like it, probably feels better. It's like, well, it's for 2 hours, I can try it, and then if not, I can be in this to finish pile later on. And versus maybe going out and to Michael's or Joann's or wherever and be like, I'm going to be the biggest embroiderer ever and get like the large piece. But besides that, there's lots of lectures that happen in DC. You have Profs and Pints, which have these adjunct professors, and for like $17, usually at Penn Social is now where they have them, but they're all throughout the city. They'll have talks, whether it's on the Venezuelan Civil War or about Cinderella and Disney or the history of George Washington's Mount Vernon. Like DC's a very nerdy place. So I know for most cities this might not hit, but I think for DC, if you're looking for something fun indoors to do, that would be something. And usually there's a lull before, the actual lecture starts and people are willing to meet people there too. Yeah, in 2023, our Google trend was that DC had the highest per capita of people that are in space-related professions. So going to lectures after hours, such as at Astronomy and Tap at DC9 or the Air and Space Museum after hours, you're going to meet a lot of curious people that are willing to share and converse ideas. Like, how did you get here as well? And then there's also something too for those, I like opera and the arts, but there's many communities related to the performing arts. So the Kennedy Center has this thing called Bravo or My Ticks or Women Who Do Opera, and there's special performances where they'll have happy hours and mixers during intermission, and you can meet people there as well. And there's always sometimes like an after party, quote unquote, at a local bar too. So drinking is not necessarily the main activity, but it is going to the performance and then discussing it maybe afterwards with people.
Did you know in DC it's actually illegal to toss household batteries in the trash? Batteries have to be recycled, and Call to Recycle is here to help. DC's official battery recycling program has convenient locations all over the city where you can drop off all kinds of household batteries. Think AA, AAA, even those rechargeable ones. Just find the drop-off spot closest to you by going to calltorecycle.org/locator. That's with the number 2. So again, that's calltorecycle.org/locator. Because recycling your batteries isn't just the law, it also helps protect our environment and our community. So clear out that junk drawer and do a little good. Go to calltorecycle.org/locator today.
Build a routine with Ollie that supports your wellness needs, like getting your daily vitamins and minerals with Ollie's multi-gummies, or keeping your mood upbeat with all the vitamin D in Hello Happy. Give your gut health some support with probiotics, and wake up feeling refreshed after taking Ollie Sleep. Do wellness on your terms. Find Ollie at a Walmart or Target near you or at ollie.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Jade, I have to ask, I feel like every time we get together, I'm thinking about dating or asking about dating.
Oh, no.
Do you have any date night ideas?
Yeah, so I started dating somebody very seriously.
Ooh.
And I've been planning a lot of our dates. I feel bad because I feel like it's maybe out of like default because he's like, you're the girl around town.
You're a professional. You're a professional date planner, essentially.
And he's like, I'll bring you to McDonald's. No, he never suggests that. But yeah, so I really love going to a sports game. I think it's fun. You can get there late. Let's say you get dinner beforehand. You can go there, go get dinner. You can go to the sports game late. You can leave whenever you want, whether that's hockey, basketball. Those are all indoors. They're very metro accessible. They're easy to do. Similarly, I love going to like Swingers, for example, or like Puttery, the mini golf place in DC, because similarly, there's an activity. You can drink afterward. You can make wagers. I always end up losing these wagers, but they're fun as well. And same with the F1 bar that opened in Union Market. Again, it's kind of fun. There's like an activity to do indoors and then discuss it afterwards.
I want to double click on what you said about you can leave sporting events whenever you want. I'm not a big sports person, but the first time I ever went to a sporting event live was a baseball game on a date. And it was one of those baseball games that, for whatever reason, we were there for 3 hours. And it was in the hot, hot sun. And it never occurred to me that we didn't have to stay. We could have just been like, well, we've seen enough baseball. We can just get up and leave of our own volition. I was like, oh, I guess we have to stay till the end. We didn't. You could actually leave whenever you want.
Yeah, people talk about how they don't want to go to dinner, let's say in a first or second date, because you can't leave and you're held hostage. And I'm like, well, yeah, go to a sports game. Then you can leave whenever you want. It's not like going to a movie where it's like, if the movie is terrible, well, in the movie theater, you always want to pick that middle great seat and you want to be like, excuse me, sorry. I mean, let's see here. Upcoming, some of our date night ideas is we're going to go to the Commanders game. Went to got dinner and we listened to music like Blues Alley, for example, or Delena. They have the music with their restaurant. But that, I think that goes back into that default restaurant idea. But what's kind of nice is there's an activity there where there's like live music or something you can enjoy together and then discuss and talk about it. Eating is just not the main focus.
What about suggestions for folks who want to go out with their kids?
With their kids, well, that's really difficult, I would say, in DC on weeknights. DC, I wish we had more of an infrastructure for weeknight kid-friendly activities. But for indoors, I think, and I feel bad because also this is going back to that museum idea, but there are definitely certain museums that cater to children more than others. The National Postal Museum, the National Building Museum, both of those have really great playground kind of activities that are free for kids to kind of engage with and do. Because they're all festivals that happen at museums, I think when people also think of this default museum, they think they're going to wander around and look at like an old painting of some person that was really wealthy to commission it 200 years ago. But for example, the National Gallery of Art, the first Saturday of every month, they have a huge activity craft fair. They have story time. They have lots of family planning activities for their children. And I think those are less crowded and hectic as, let's say, like a Lunar New Year festival at a museum or something that's like, this is the holiday, we're celebrating all this stuff. This is just something that they always have every first Saturday of the month at the museum.
I love that suggestion. So I am one of these people where every time I leave the house, somehow I spend $100. You know, the cost of living is expensive. Everything is expensive. Are there ways to enjoy indoor events in DC without feeling like you're going to break the bank?
Yes, there are. There definitely are. I would say, so for example, for crafting, that might be, when I say like shopping in DC or Reloom, I love those people, but sometimes those can cost like $50 or $60 a pop minimum to like go do something, to learn a new skill, because you're compensating the teacher and the supplies. But DC Public Library has free craft events all the time where you can learn how to laser cut things, or you can learn like basic sewing skills, or these swaps, for example, where you're trading things, you're not really spending money to do it, or movie screenings. Embassies, of course, do show movies, but so does the American History Museum, so does the Library of Congress, as well as DC public libraries all throughout. They show them for free. So there are many places where if you wanted to do something, you could kind of find like a cheaper version of it somewhere else if you wanted to. I truly believe that. Similarly, like bingo trivia bars there really is no cost of entry. I think you have to have some pretty good discipline when you're going in about how much money you're going to spend in bingo or, any of these, like going out drinking with friends. For restaurants and performances, there are places that have performances that are pretty casual where you can come and go as you please. So a big joint every Friday night, they have pizza and live music, or like St. Vincent Wine Bar, they have music at the wine bar. That I feel like you feel less maybe pressure to order something, and the cost of entry is kind of low compared to other places that you might go to.
Yeah, I like your suggestion of finding a cheaper thing to do. I love to go to the movies, but it's gotten very expensive. So catch a cheaper movie at Sun's, right? Like, it's not the same experience as going to a big multiplex, but it's still like a cheaper version or a more attainable version of the thing that you want to do.
See, I like Landmark East Street Theater. People, they don't have reclining chairs. It's really old, but boy, there's no cell phone service in the basement. I think that's great. Like, I really love to disconnect in so many ways. You're automatically in airplane mode once you go under that escalator, so it's so nice.
What about something for relaxation? Are there any spas or things like that you might recommend?
There are spas, I would say, in DC. They're not cheap for relaxation, but of course, there are substitutes that you can do to work around it. So for me, I like going to the Eaton Hotel. Sometimes they have an infrared sauna. You can book like a 30-minute session that works it too. Or for example, if you want to go to a sauna, like have one of your friends who has a Vita membership or something, bring you as their guest that month, and then you get to experience the sauna there too. So there are many ways to kind of work around it. Similarly, if you have the programs like Spa World under Groupon out in Virginia, if you want to go to like a large Korean spa, or for ClassPass with the credits option, you can kind of save some credits to use to get a cheaper manicure or to get like a cheaper facial or like a very basic massage, but still not breaking the bank.
Jade, I'm literally looking up the spa at the Eaton Hotel right now. I'm there all the time, and I did not know they offered this.
Yeah, there is an infrared sauna room. It's pretty nice, to be honest. It's very nice. And also, yeah, it's very low key.
Well, thanks so much for all of these great tips on how we should be spending our time on these dreary indoor days in DC. Maybe I'll see you at the Eden Hotel for a spa day.
Yeah, no, I mean, especially coming up in January, I know people are looking for ways to try new things with less money, not centered around drinking. So it's always kind of fun to get a little bit creative thinking about things. And thanks for having me on.
That's all for today here on CityCast DC. If you enjoyed the show, share it with a friend who cannot wait to get out in the snow. You can rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with even more news from around the city. Talk to you then.